on my first step ever. This is a journey that we are on. If you have been with us since the very beginning, you joined us midway, or you're just here for the very first time, to kind of wonder what is this all about. On my first step ever, we uncover the behind the scenes of the first steps that our guest speakers have taken in their life. And to be honest, there are several first steps that one takes in their life to achieve their goals or to even figure out their life. Now, why the first steps and why the behind the journey? Because that is something, my friend, that no one really kind of talks about because it is hard and we all are figuring out as we go, and we can only talk about it in the hindsight. So, if you want to build more conviction in what you want to do and keep at it and achieve those goals or the dreams that you have, taking actions is the primary step. So, from here, let's begin because I am so excited and so honored to welcome this amazing personality and expert from all. This person is going to take us to the depth of the world of fitness and much more than that. Not just physical fitness, but spiritual fitness and more. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Len Lopez, all the way from US, Texas. Dr. Len, welcome on my first step ever.
Hey, thank you so much for the invitation, Ishani. It's great to be here. And I love the title of your program, First Step. It kind of jives with my 5 steps a day.
Absolutely. So before we begin, and I just kind of dig in with your journey, your first steps, and then connect it to the 5 steps that you have created. That is a raving rage, I think, all across the globe. People are loving it, and because it is making a lot of sense for them and it is helping them, we can see the impact that it has created. I like to give a sneak peek about you to our listeners today. So my guest is a nutrition and fitness expert, Dr. Len Lopez, as you've heard it, who has spent the last 25 years teaching people how to eat right and train smart. You may recognize him as the former host of Natural Health Made Simple or from his regular appearances on Good Morning Texas. So, Texas people, here's your favorite host again on my first step ever. Hopefully, you will be able to get to see a new side, a different side of him on this podcast. So, from formulating nutritional products to inventing the innovative portable pull-up bar. Wow, now that is something that we all are kind of so excited to know that someone has really done that. Dr. Len doesn't just talk health, he builds it. And today, he's sharing a simple yet powerful framework, 5 steps a day, that track how you feed your body, mind, and spirit. So you can transform habits, elevate attitude, and create real momentum in your daily life. So if you haven't yet hit the follow button, follow the follow this podcast, My First Step Ever, on YouTube, on Spotify, and let's just get started. We would love to understand that where was little Len was growing up, who was he surrounded with, and the mindset of the people that he was surrounded with.
Well, I thank you for that great introduction, Ishani. And I wish I could say that I first realized what I needed to do and what steps I needed to take when I was very young and just skated through the rest of my or the last 7 decades of my life. But I didn't. It was you learn by falling and getting up again. It's when you don't get back up that's when you start failing or just uh, being content with where you're at. And so, from high school to college and after college is some of the challenges, the difficulties, the failures that happen. And I shouldn't say failure. They were just like, okay, this isn't getting me where I want to go. And so I had to refocus and then, okay, now I'm on the right course again and yet going further in my life, in my career, my destiny. And like many others, then you hit a pass in the road and everything. And it's how you deal with that. Did that impasse slow you down and defeat you, or did it make you retool your device so you can keep on moving forward? And that's kind of what's been my not my legacy, but that's kind of been my evolution. It's you run into a stumbling block, and again, you either let it whip you, or you overcome it and you become bigger, better, bolder from that, and then you keep on going until you keep going.
Love that. Love that. Thank you so much for taking us through a brief sort of an introduction to you and to your, sort of journey so far. So my first question is, I want to kind of really get into that particular time of your life when you were growing up. So let please take us through the background of, where were you born, a bit about your family and the mindset of the people that you were growing up with.
Well, I guess I could say I can't say I grew up in the 50s, but I was born in the 50s, but grew up in the 60s and everything. And your typical family back there in the United States, San Antonio, Texas, go, go San Antonio. But I grew up there and, had a close family. We did a lot of stuff together. And, back in those times, nobody was being transplanted to other being moved and you're away from your family because you got a promotion to this part of the country or that part of the country. All my cousins and relatives lived in San Antonio for the most part, so there was always family time together. So that was a great foundation for not just me and my two brothers, but also my other cousins as well. So I think that was a great start for us and everything. So that was really helpful. But then it was just the typical things that's going on today, and kind of like what I always talk about. The first 18 years of your life are pretty well planned out. You're going to be going to school, and where you're at in Australia, same thing. I'm assuming you go to school for the first 2 decades of your life, but it's after that second decade, now you have to decide where you want to go. You are considered an adult, and you get to make those decisions. And unfortunately, a lot of people, once they finish those first 12 years of education, they may or may not know what the next step is. They haven't been taught that where do you want to go, what do you want to do, or some have, but I think it's a small percentage that actually know where they want to go. So I always kind of joke, when you get out of high school, what do you want to do? You're going to join the band, join the service, join the circus, get married, find a job, you know. So a lot of people don't know, and even then, if they continue with their education, there's still a lot of people that still aren't sure what they want to do. And I think, according to statistics, those who start on a career path in one degree, I don't know what the numbers are, but I know it's not. It's 90% or 80% follow that all the way through. They change, and then when they get out, they have a degree in this subject and subject A, but they end up getting a job in subject B, C, or D because that's just kind of how society has evolved with what's been taught and what you're after and everything.
Yeah, I would love to kind of, emphasize on something that you just mentioned. There's always, pros and cons to everything. And I think the
Right,
times back then, as you said, that you grew up with your cousins, your extended family, it just shows the kind of the feeling of community, to think
right,
about others. Of course, you do think about yourself, but you also kind of think about others. The most basic thing about sharing and going out there, communicating with people, that is something that's inbuilt in people if you are growing up in that kind of an environment. And then there's a contrasting challenge that you mentioned for those times, that because you had only certain professions decided for people, that once you graduate, this is all that you can kind of work into, unless you come from a business family, or
right.
if that is, and everyone had to stick to that. You can't really think outside the box. And but there have been certain people who have been crazy enough to think outside the box, but things are now changing. They are definitely changing because people are questioning, so back then for you, doctor, I would love to kind of understand, while you had reached that age, you were 18, you did everything that was planned out for you. uh, Before I do ask the other question, it just occurred to me, were you a very sincere kid out there, or were you someone who rebelled? How were you as a teenager though?
What I remember, and what I'm going to say, and I'm going to stick to. My kids will want to. I was kind of a somewhat more quiet young man. I grew up. I had an older brother who was 2 years older than me. And when I got into high school, he was just the talk of the school and everything. He was a stud athlete and everything. I was a good athlete, but he was. So I always felt like I was in his shadow and everything. But then as we got older and everything, and as I evolved and became better and better and started reading more, understanding more, and realized that, hey, if I want to be better at A, B, or C, I need to educate myself, understand how A, B, and C work to get that way. And I think that applies to everything and everybody. And unfortunately, as I said, I'm the older guy. I'm not going to say old. I'm the older guy with younger kids. And as they're getting ready to take off to college, just hoping that they are seeing that they're like, ooh, what do I want to do? I'm distracted on my phone. That's as much as we value our phones and the how it helps our lives in so many different ways, but it can also be a crux. That can slow you down and be a hindrance to you. And I think for some people, it's more of a crux than it is an aid for them. And so it's a juggling act, and not everybody juggles it well. And so those that do and use it for the right purposes and know how to manage their time, which again is another skill that you have to learn as you get older, because it's so easy to sit in front of your phone for the next thing 5 minutes turns into 25 minutes and 45 minutes. Oh, I don't have time to cook something to eat. I don't have time to get my homework done. I don't have time to wash my clothes. And you expand that out as you're an adult, when you have kids and you have a job and career and all that. So it's just distractions.
I bet if I had your grandchildren sitting just right in front of you today, we could have quite a good debate right now on this one. But you're absolutely true when you say that, concentration, focus is that comes rare these days. And that's something that one needs to build. It's exactly, I think, synonymous to what you just mentioned back in your time when you said that you started reading about things that may have interested you researched and started to know more about it, that if you want to do something of your own that interests you need to read more about it, you need to have more knowledge about it, and also obviously act on it. Now in the present time, we know that you are the nutrition and fitness expert, but when you had reached the age where all the planning ends, 18 or 19, and then you're the verge of deciding what now and how you want to start your life. So when you were on the edge of that mountain, when you had to now just either fly or kind of jump into the waters, as everyone say, um, what was your choice back then? How did it all start for you?
Well, let me say it this way: when I entered college, I was on the medical pathway. But in the first year, and again, I moved from San Antonio to Houston, University of Houston, go Cougars. When I moved out there and was living in the dorm, it was just like a whole new life. And when I was studying, it felt like every all the biology and the chemistry and physiology. It was like this stinks, and I hated all the memorization, and it didn't encourage me, didn't inspire me, didn't motivate me. That's a better word. Didn't motivate me, and thus my first semester, my grades weren't that great. And I think either by the second or third semester the following year, I said this is not for me. Until I went and studied business, and that was very helpful, because what I realized that the medicine, and I know it's an important part, it's really just memorization and regurgitation, which you have to know this stuff, right? How the aerobic system works, the anaerobic system, how your digestive system works, how your immune system, and I really wasn't interested in that at 18. And it was more fascinating when I got into the business stuff, just understanding ideas. What triggers somebody that's going to motivate them to buy this? How you want to draw out your phrase or your name or your title, or how to lay it out, because that's going to be more stimulating to the visual eye and everything. And so that captured more of my attention. And so thus I ended my college career. I got a BA Masters in Marketing and everything. So I was along that path, and I did stuff that way. Me and my brother, we ended up having a batting glove company that we were working with. Had a lot of the pros wearing our Major League Baseball batting gloves. Thought we hit a home run with this new idea. Unfortunately, like anything else, you need money and expertise, and we didn't have money and the expertise, but we did fairly well, and it just evolved. And um, you know, when I lost a lot from losing that business, our business that we had, I was kind of like, okay, I'm almost homeless now because I just bought a house. Now I just lost a house. I became an actor. I don't want to go into details of how all that evolved to. That's another story. But I did that for about 4 years. Realized after 4 years, I didn't become Tom Cruise's best friend or close friend even. And so I said, what is I going to do? And I met a gentleman in the chiropractic industry who I at the time had no idea who he was. I was parking cars at one of the hotels at one of the valets out there in L.A. And he just turned me on and said, "No." As we started speaking, he inspired me to seek out the chiropractic profession. And the reason that he really we went that route is because more than 45 years ago, I broke my back playing ball, and so the only ones that really helped me after that were the various couple of chiropractors that I saw, and so I had a lot of appreciation for what they did versus the traditional medical route did for me. And so when I started my practice there, and I thought I would be just treating patients that had aches and pains and be, adjusting people and working on their legs and muscles and this, that, and the other. But I started, just got fascinated with nutrition and health because I was doing a lot of weightlifting in my last year in high school, the first 3 or 4 years in college, and I was just reading all the magazines I could about health and fitness, and I started attracting more and more patients that were more dealing with not just fitness problems, but hormonal problems, headache problems, digestive problems, things like that, and one thing turned into another. Next thing I know, I'm invited to be a guest on a TV show, a local TV show, and then after that visit, they go, "Hey, Doc, we really liked everything you had to say. Would you want to come back and do that again, just and discuss whatever it is you want to discuss?" So that ended up for the next 2.5 years, and just kind of opened up so many opportunities. So I was just kind of fortunate. I had no idea. I was just doing what I loved doing, and luckily the doors were opening for me. And as I look back, as I shared with others, I didn't have a real clear message or for myself what I wanted to do with this instant fame and notoriety. And I shouldn't say instant, but this just kept on developing. And so, but it did have its highs.
Wow, Dr. Len, that is, I think, a roller coaster ride of your journey that you have taken us on. That there's so much going on over there, and that we have just reached the station where you are sitting in this TV interview, and you people are loving you from here, and I think that's when things kind of started rolling out for you from there. But I like to kind of go back a few steps in this journey, because there are a few important, I think, points I would like to kind of work on, not in terms of what happened really, the details about the things, but it's about your mindset. How did you really work on things in those challenging times? Because when our listeners, people are watching us, they are going to look at this. I'm sure most of this, they are probably in that phase, in the most extreme darkest phase, some of them, or some of them are trying to kind of get out of that. But the mental resilience, the mindset that one really needs to require, the emotional and that setup that one needs to kind of start building for themselves to be able to pull them out from the situation, is something that really helps them. So because there's something that you mentioned in your journey, that obviously you kind of decided that maybe what you were doing is not something for you, the study that you were doing, you took another decision of doing business. You went ahead with that, you experimented, you started that business, and then you had an amazing house, and then you had faced a very challenging situation of that business, then not kind of working well at that point in time, and then situations just started flowing for you. You became an actor, and then you kind of came across this amazing chiropractor. I want to ask, in this entire phase, because there was a lot of ups and downs, and in hindsight, it sounds like, oh wow, Dr. Len does this, then Dr. Len went and did this, and then he went and did this. But there has been a lot of ups and downs of emotions. If you can take us through, how did you train yourself, or how did you kind of build that emotional resilience, mental resilience, to face these situations and keep moving on?
Well, it's funny as we were talking after you started talking and kind of reiterated what I was saying, and I'm thinking to myself, I've only shared the journey of, I guess, my personal financial growth or professional growth and everything. I haven't even hit the stumbling block of just the other areas that I've gone through and everything. Not that I want to really share all those in a sense, but I'll share what really helped me, because I think of the highs and lows I have professionally, and everybody's going to have highs and lows, whether it be in their personal, their financial, their relationships, their spiritual walk. And yeah, I had my highs and lows, and I haven't really talked about this a whole lot, as far as just as in fact, I just only recently shared it with my daughter, that yeah, I came as close to being left at the altar as you can, and just the devastation, the I don't know, say humiliation, the embarrassment, and it's overcoming that situation, and what it took to try to overcome that. Because yeah, when all of that turmoil was going on in my life, which was this is before I became a doctor, that was just another monkey wrench that got thrown into me, and it's just the mindset. What kind of mindset am I? Do I have the mindset? Am I dependent on some of my spiritual strength to help me through those times? And so it was just a combination of all that happening, and that's why I know we're going to talk about this in a minute. I think we are body, mind, and spirit, and it's important to be able to support, strengthen all three of those legs. And because if you look at body, mind, and spirit, in my opinion, it's like the three-legged chair. And when you have three legs, it's always going to be in balance. When the three legs are out of balance, it's because one is not strong enough to support the other two that are too dominant and whatnot. So I don't know if I really got to your question, but yeah, I've had my highs and lows, but developing that mind, reading. I got out of college, took some jobs, had some highs and lows, was in the financial markets and everything, transferred from a company to open up a division or an office in another city, packed everything up, moved. Turned out that 6 months later, the company by the SEC got the kibosh on them and everything. So everything I did to move, it just got thrown away for me. So having to rebuild and resynchronize where to go with that, and the same thing. Thought I was about to get married, and next thing I know, I'm not getting married. And so just one of those things. And it's quiet time, reading, not just feeling sorry for myself. There was time for that, and as I tell others, and as I've helped with others, is that there's a time for that, time for recovery. But then after that, you got to pull yourself up and start figuring out what it is you want to do, because tomorrow the sun's going to come up and you get to decide if you want to sit here and stride forward, or do you want to sit here and have a pity party. And my dad never let me have a pity party. That was encouraging. That was helpful.
Firstly, thank you so much for opening up, Dr. Len. These are some very difficult situations that I wouldn't want anyone to go through, personally or professionally, but that's how life it is. And I think something very beautiful that you have shared, which you just mentioned, your father would have not let you do, is to sit in the pity party. And that is so true. We all do feel that emotion. We all do sink in those times when we are living a reality. Like right now, it sounds so cool, that Dr. Len has faced so many situations. Yes, she's bounced back, but we really don't know what it went when you were living your reality. But what we know from it is that the reason that you were able to kind of, work on that is because that how you thought about it. That yes, you felt bad. Yes, you did feel your emotion. And it's very important to kind of feel your emotions, feel the feelings that you have. But tell yourself that the sun is going to rise the very next day, which you exactly said, and not to kind of sit in the pity party or the victim mode. Because in my experiences, I feel that these challenges are unique to us and they make us who we are. And that's why we are built differently, and you are built differently. And I think that is exactly why everything comes together and the five steps have been created. A while ago you mentioned that you never really enjoyed memorizing all those things about digestive system and immune system and everything, but even kind of being in nutrition and fitness industry, there's still a lot of things that one needs to kind of learn and understand about
Yeah.
human body, mind, everything. So you did somewhere come back somewhere in the same circle. So what was different this time that it caught on your attention and you started loving to read more about it, to learn more about it just before you went on the TV?
That's a great question, and here's the way I always answer. I would answer it here, and it makes me think of what I always try to tell other people. It's kind of like if you know where you're sailing to, right? What are all the sailors say? You never set sail without knowing where your destination is. When I was still my first year in college, first couple years, I really didn't know where I was aiming for, and by not knowing when the headwinds came along, it was easy to get distracted. But when I went to school in my 30s to become a doctor, it was I knew what I wanted. I knew what the goal was. I knew where I was going, and I knew the headwinds of just memorization of the skeletal muscle, where the insertion point, where the muscles attach, how the nervous system, the cardiovascular system, how all these systems work together. I knew those were the headwinds I was having to deal with memorizing the stuff I hated 10 years prior, but I knew where I wanted to go, which means I knew I had to get through that to get to my end point. And so as long as you know where you're going, and I'll use one thing I like to say is, there's the old, we all know, we've heard the expression, the land of milk and honey, right? And I always say, if you don't know where your land of milk and honey is, okay, if you don't know what your proverbial land of milk and honey is, don't be complaining if you arrive at the land of heartaches and headaches. Because a lot of people, they get to wherever they're at in life and they start squawking, but they didn't know where they wanted to go. So again, if you end up at the land of heartaches and headache, which is very common, whose fault is it? Is it because you didn't know where you wanted to go? When the wind was in your face, let's turn this way now because it's too hard to go that way. But if you know where you want to go, you will make it through those headwinds. And the best part about it is there's going to be a time when those winds are at your back. And that's when you're going to make that progress. That's when you're going to make those gains. And so I feel for me that was kind of the easy successes I had is when I ended up meeting A, B, or C individual, and they saw me, and they saw hopefully a smart, intelligent person that had good ideas, and it casted me further in the direction I was headed. I was wanting to go.
Dr. Len, this is such a beautiful example, I would say, for everyone who's watching us right now and listening us, because it gives us a clear message that the same thing that you may not be interested in doing, but you do get interested because you have a purpose. There's
Right.
a why, there's a goal. And I think even for the parents who are watching us and they're listening to us, if they're young parents or they are way down the line, they're experienced parents, I think when you're wondering that why our kids are not kind of they're not being interested in certain things, is because you may need to kind of sit down and understand with them that what is their goal, that they may not know about that goal. It is so important to know your goal or the purpose, and sometimes it unfolds with the time, but you
Right.
need to keep going in your life. Up until then, keep trying things, keep doing things, and you may kind of figure out something. You may start getting closer to really what you want. Exactly, like I'm really enjoying listening to your journey, Dr. Len, because it is giving us a picture of what life looks like for most of us who are still figuring it out, and that you can end up well if you keep trying, if you keep working on things that you like, and you may end up meeting the right people, getting the good mentorship that you're looking for, the right direction with the right goal. So now that we have talked about a bit of ups and downs and the feelings, that how we kind of got out of there, I think it's fair, and it's only fair for Dr. Len to share his happy moment, which was when he was invited for on the TV, and not everyone gets the chance. So we would love to hear from you before we then dive into the amazing 5 steps a day that was created. How was the feeling of being on the TV show, and what was going in your mind back then?
Well, to set it up, I was invited to help out another individual who was trying to help somebody go through a 90-day weight loss at the beginning of the year. And it turned out that maybe, I think after like 60 days, they weren't getting the results that they wanted. And so she was the fitness expert for the show and everything. And then somehow she got hold of my name, called me up and told me what was going on. Can you help me? yada yada yada. If you can help me these last 30 days, or we can try to get her to get some results and everything, because it's a 90-day challenge. And what I'll do for you, Doc, is if you do, I'll bring you on the show. And okay, well that sounds, yeah, I guess that's worthwhile. And so I went on the show, and well, I guess when I was sitting in the backstage talking with one of the producers, we just kept on chatting. And afterwards, she just said, "Doc, I've been," and I can remember the words pretty clearly. She was just saying, I've been a producer for over 5 years here, and I've talked to so many doctors. I guess for the last 45 minutes, I've been chatting with you. I feel like I've learned so much about how the body functions, and the way you describe it is so easy to understand. Would you like to come back in the next week and just and talk about one or two of your subjects and everything?" I go, what do you mean? She goes, with no, just for you. I just, we just want you to be talk about the diet, fitness, whatever, and everything. And so it just kept on going for the next several years. And I always tell everybody, because it had its ups and downs. It had some great ups, and then it had some downs, because at the time, what I didn't understand, I didn't know how to take advantage of all these great opportunities I was receiving, because I had already reached my pinnacle. I was in practice. I was making money. I was getting notoriety, but then I just got more, and I didn't know how to deal with it and everything. It just kept on riding the wave, and the wave was good and everything, and some really good things happened out of it. I've written a few books. I manufactured or formulated some nutritional product, invented a fitness product. So there's been some really great, but it wasn't until after all of that that I really got real focused, as far as didn't see how the writing was on the wall. Things were somehow being set up for me to take advantage of. What do I want to do next? How am I going to take advantage of what I have to further this or that? And so it's just one of those things that, sometimes not knowing where you want to go is one thing. You can just get lucky. But once you find out where you want to go, it's kind of like when the wind is at your back. If you know where you want to go and you have the wind behind you, you can achieve that purpose you're striving for.
Absolutely. And I think what I can see is that you had a background in marketing, in business. You had already set up a business and you've seen what works, what doesn't work. And I think all that came handy while you started your business in the nutrition and fitness industry. And what is so amazing, what I am able to kind of derive from this, is that you also kind of, because you study biology, but obviously left it because at that point in time it did not make sense to you, and then did business, and everything now has come together beautifully in a way that kind of helps you. You also worked in the industry, you were an actor, and everything has come fitted so well now in your favor. So as you mentioned that you did your business, you started your business, it was going well, you helped so many people, you've written books, you've built products, you've done so much. And the next step was to kind of being invited on this show and speak about everything that you have done. But before we kind of step into the world where everything kind of skyrocketed for you when you build your 5 steps a day, I really want to kind of talk about the initial days when you built your business, fitness industry, nutrition business, because that is still tough, when you're getting into something where you have made a business in like earlier and it did not work. Did you have any sort of inhibitions at that point in time, or you had great mentorship to kind of build that building block for yourself?
Well, it's funny, because I look back and I think of my father, because my father, he worked for the government here in the United States for his total adult life, basically. And it wasn't until the very end, or the end of his career and everything, that he invented a tool to help take off some of the what's called the vertical stabilizer off the fighter planes, the jet fighter planes, and it had never been done before. So had he been working independently for himself, I would be already in a yacht somewhere else, because it would have garnered him a lot of money. Instead, because he worked for the government, the patent and all the information went to the government. So my father got a great, he got the accolades and all that stuff and everything. But it was at the very end, before he passed away, he was trying to move away from working for someone and to try to become. And I remember me and my other brother were trying to help him write his brochures, because this was back in the 90s, right? How to make a brochure, a pamphlet, and business cards for him and everything. Unfortunately, right when all that was happening, that he ended up passing away and everything. But what I try to tell other people, what I'm trying to tell my kids, is that you can either, what kind of mindset do you have? Because you may have the mindset, whether it be a plumber, electrician, mechanic, doctor, engineer, you can become one, but is that going to destine you to be working for somebody the rest of your career? Or do you have the fortitude, the whatever the right word is, to be able to say, hey, I think I can make this business and I can be the owner? And so everybody's different. And some people say, yeah, I want to be this, but they really don't have the mental makeup to be
Hmm.
the owner. You'll start noticing as you get older, what do you have plans for? And I share that just also for another reason, because I know when I came out of chiropractic school, trying to set up a practice, I thought I was going to be working for somebody else and started out that path, but it really wasn't the picture I was hoping to see. And after about 3 weeks, I ended up leaving and just started my own practice, and just kind of I'm going to just roll the dice and see if I can make this happen. And fortunately, it has been, and it's been kind of a blessing and everything. But everybody has a different makeup. I think that's what it comes down to. When you're trying to find your career, your path. Are you going to be? Well, if I take this path, I guess everybody that does this path, they work for themselves. I don't know if I can work for myself, but I got to do the marketing, I got to do the accounting, I got to. So it's about just kind of investigating, what it is you want to do and what are you built for. And if you find that it's not built for you, that doesn't mean you can't learn it. And so when you start off, you're kind of wearing 6 different hats because you're having to do it all. Hopefully, eventually, you can start, passing some of other the other needs that need to be fulfilled with somebody else that can help to support you.
Absolutely. And Dr. Len, it's just nice to hear someone who's experienced, you know, so many different, I wouldn't say so many different professions, but experienced life. And you're telling people out there it's okay to be in the direction that you are, because everyone is made up differently, and that is so true. And I think everyone who's listening to us today, they should take pride in whatever they're doing, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you are working for a cause or an organization or a mission that calls out for you, or even if you're like stay at home mom, mompreneur, youth leader, whoever, whatever that you like to kind of do. And if that is what really makes you happy and makes you do your job to the very best, that's just you and you're unique. And that is what it's all about, having your own journey and having conviction in that. So thank you so much, Dr. Len, for actually, voicing that. It's very important. Yes.
Let me share one of the things. I heard this years ago, and I can't tell you how many years ago it was, before I became a doctor. I think probably before then. But I heard some gentleman speak. He said, "Never, never, 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 never take a job unless it's a job that's going to get you to your career of what you want to do. Jobs are great if it's going to be a stepping stone to get you to where you want to be, whether that means the owner, or maybe you want to be the vice president, you want to be the CFO, whatever you'll take this job or take this gig to get you wherever it is you want to go. If it's an entrepreneurship, be self-employed. You have to do some of the other ugly work, ugly steps as well sometimes.
That those are some wise words. And from this wise words to now, we're going to go to the wise words, the wise 5 steps that has been created by Dr. Len. I'm so excited to kind of jump into that. So this stage is all yours, because you are the expert over this. We would love to understand, how did 5 steps a day come about, and what does it really entail?
Well, 5 steps. It's 5 steps a day, and the word steps is simply an acronym for sleep, think, eat, physical, and spirit. And all this is a simple daily to-do list to see how you're feeding body, mind, and spirit. I mean, the habits and attitudes that we develop, are they helping us, making us bigger, better, bolder? Or do our habits and attitudes move us to where we're, dazed, doomed, dazed, and defeated? And so what 5 steps is just a simple way in 2 minutes you can track to see, are you feeding body? Are you feeding mind? How are you feeding spirit? If you're not doing well in either one of those, whose fault is it? It's thyself. And so all it is, in 2 minutes, you can quickly see how well you're track, how well you're feeding body, mind. And I say this about habits and attitudes. Habits and attitudes are like your DNA. It's your genetic code. If you trace back your DNA, you can see where you came from, right? Well, the
Mm.
same way, if you trace back your habits and attitude, you may see that some of your accomplishment and achievements in life were when your habits and attitude were good for you. They were help making you bigger, better, and bolder. But by the same token, if you trace back your habits and attitude, you may see that some of the difficulties and challenges you've had in your life may be surrounded by the fact that that's when your habits and attitude weren't as good as they could be. And so all we're trying to do is help you realize that, hey, how are you feeding body, mind, and spirit? You're the chef. You get to decide how good you want to feed body, mind, and spirit, or how bad you want to. You can't blame it on anybody else. And I use that tagline specifically because, being the older guy with young kids, my kids, they just say, Dad, your food stinks. And that's a great lie there, because my food doesn't stink. But they would just always say more to the fact that we don't have enough junk food around the house. And I would always tell them, when you get old enough, you can pay for your own junk food that you want to have. And here, we're going to have the junk food I approve of, for lack of a better word. But it's, what are you feeding body, mind, and spirit? And so that's the difficulty. And in 2 minutes, you can really see how well you're feeding body, mind, and spirit, how well you're improving your habits and attitude. And I think, for simplicity, I think a lot of your they might be tracking their physical steps, right? They're using their watches, they're tracking their steps for their physical health. That's great. But what about mind and spirit? So if I can share with you what each one of the steps are.
Yes,
uh,
we would love to
Again,
hear that.
I'll start with what we're just on the physical part. Each letter is an acronym. Did you carve out some time to do some physical activity today? If you did, shade in the P. I'm not asking you if it was a hard workout, full workout, half a workout. If you walked to the store today, or just played basketball with the kids, that could be physical for some people. But did you carve out some time to get physical? If you did, shade in the P. Did you eat right today? I didn't ask if you ate perfect. Most people eat 2 to 3 meals a day or more. I'm simply asking, did you have more good meals for the day than bad? A lot of people, they may have a good breakfast, a good lunch, check mark. Ooh, they went out with friends and family. They didn't have a good dinner. And for a lot of people, that's when they fall off the wagon of their diet, and they don't get back on the wagon. And so all we're saying, hey, 2 meals is like 2 steps forward, one step back. You're still making progress. So if you ate good for the day, shade in the E. So you can see that's what you're doing. We're trying to stimulate that visual, and helping those people that are more visual learners, more kinesthetic learners. How did you feed your mind? Did you sleep? Did you sleep and dream with a smile, or did you fall asleep with the remote control in your hand, or worse, your cell phone in your hand? And did you allow those negative thoughts to just be repeated in your mind for the 8 hours you slept? And I want to say this especially. We all know that you're not supposed to eat junky food before going to bed, right? But how many of us allow our minds to chew on the junky thoughts for the next 8 hours? So if you have a dream, if you know where your land of milk and honey is, and whether you build a vision board, or just kind of know what you want to see happen next week, next month, 1 year down the road, if you have an idea of where you want to go, if you close your eyes and visualize that image, that picture of, maybe it's a new car, maybe it's a corner office at the building, maybe it's a scholarship you're trying to get. Maybe it's the applause you're hoping to get for the presentation you're giving. Maybe it's, whatever, what goal do you have? But if you can close your eyes after you say your prayers, close your eyes and just get that visualization in your mind, see that, you'll be amazed how that smile starts growing on your face. And that's what I mean by sleeping with the smile. So, that's how you feed the mind. Did you sleep with a smile? Did you think better today? So, does that make sense? The last step is the last S is spirit. Did you work your spiritual muscles today? Now, maybe today's not the day that you went to service or anything, but maybe it's a day you just you fellowship with others. Maybe you served at church today. Maybe you were just listening to good music that really inspired you. Maybe you were just listening to a podcast because you were on the train, the bus, and airplane. But there's more ways to work your spiritual muscles, and I say that because, in my opinion, to neglect your spirit is like skipping a meal. It leaves you empty. So wherever you are in your spiritual walk, are you doing anything to develop your spirit? And that's what Five Steps is all about. Are feeding body, mind, and spirit. Those are the most essential to-dos you need to do each day. Now, what's great about Five Steps Guide, you just shade in the footsteps, and yeah, we have calendars, we have journals, but every time when I first came out with this, a lot of the friends that I shared it with to get their opinions on it, they all said, "Hey, Len, this is really cool. I really like this. You need to make this an app. I think it needs to be an app. Can I? I need to get my kids to read this." And so that's kind of how it evolved. And, so we have a teen version to help, teens realize, you are what you think and everything. But it's just a simple way to help you track how you're feeding body, mind, and spirit. Is it going to take 3 weeks to improve your habits and attitude? It might. It might take you longer, but it's like anything else. How long is it going to take you to learn how to hit the driver? Is it going to take you 3 weeks or longer? Depends on how much training you do to make it happen. And so it's the same way. It's just a simple way to, especially for those who are more visual and more
Mhm.
kinesthetic, because there's something about shading in your footstep, and you can see on your phone how many steps you took. You can say, wow, quick. Oh man, I can pat myself on the back. I took 27 steps this past week and everything. Or, oh heck, I need to kick myself in the rear because I only took 6 steps. Who am I to blame? And so that's why I say our habits and attitude are like our DNA. It kind of tracks how you're, what you're destined for, or where you're headed.
Thank you so much, Dr. Len, for sharing your 5 steps and in such great detail, because it is often the details that we leave behind and we do not really understand that why things are for what they are. It's easy to kind of understand, oh, this is 5 steps, it's related to mind, body, soul, but what really goes into it. And I'm happy that you have explained it to us, because people who are listening us intently and who are with us up till now, I'm sure they are interested to kind of understand how things work. And what's even more interesting is that you have built an app for teens, and I think that is so good, because that instant gratification, I think, is used in a really good way over here. When they can.
No,
Yes, please.
absolutely. I think we've all seen the various pictures of the footsteps in the sand, and that's kind of what when I first envisioned this thing, I said that's what it feels like, and I really got the idea because I would always tell my patients that in the next 7 days, you have an opportunity to take 21 steps towards better health, right? 3 meals a day, 7 days a week. And, do I expect you to take 21 steps? No, but I think it was something I could plant in their mind. Hey, there's a graph, there's a chart, there's something I can see. Oh, I took 15 steps forward. I took 13, 14 steps. The thing I didn't want to see is 12 steps forward and 11 steps backward, or whatever, 11 steps forward and 10 steps backwards for the week, because you only took one step forward for the week. And so this is what steps is about. Are you making progress? And too many people beat themselves up, from what I've seen with my patient, for when they fall off the wagon, and just saying, no, tomorrow's another day. So let's just make sure, let's just keep track, see what we're doing, and soon enough you'll be able to do it without the app. But it's very helpful to really help you. Okay, yeah, I'm doing good here. it's nothing. There's nothing better than getting a pat on the back, and then even sharing it with another person to say, "Hey, how did you do? How many steps did you get this week?" "Yeah, I did 12. I did 18." And so it's just a simple way to help you improve your habits and attitude. That I think it's just like, add it to your daily planner. There's also a to-do list there too as well. You can also journal if you want to journal, because it is kind of a journaling system. So if there's a section in there on the app that you can journal in there, and on the app as well, there's a to-do list that you can put your daily to-do list. Go pick up the laundry, go drop the kids off for their haircut, whatever it is. So I think it's a really functional tool that can help those that are just stuck somewhere, and might help them move to that next step. And hopefully there's other daily notes that come out that just kind of hopefully to inspire you to keep moving forward in body, mind, and spirit.
This is really interesting, doctor. And I think your patients are very lucky to have you over there. Who a doctor who tells them tomorrow is it's a new day. So and you're just sticking to them as a cheerleader. You are just kind of cheering them up on their way, so that they understand that every day is a new day, and we can correct what we think may have gone wrong. Firstly, thank you so much, doctor, for being on my first step ever. I'm so excited that we have been able to get a glimpse of you as a growing teen, and then as an adult, and then as someone who is helping contribute to the people around him in the community. Doctor, thank you so much, Dr. Len, for being on First Step Ever. Is there something that you would like to say?
No, thank you so much for allowing me to come to be on your show, to be a guest on your show, and share some information with your audience and everything. And I do encourage them, if they are struggling anywhere in their walk, whether it be body, mind, or spirit, please check out 5 Steps a Day. Download the app and see if it might be a simple way to help improve where you are in your walk, and then hopefully it can be helpful for them. It's
completely my honor. And as you've mentioned, I'm going to leave those links in the show notes below for anyone who would like to connect with you or to kind of try this app out. I might try myself as well. It sounds really interesting to me. Probably I can get into the habit as well, which I've been mentally kind of ticking off every day. So the 5 steps that we have learned today, my friends, thank you so much for being with us today. And as I always request my guest speakers, that to leave our listeners with the quote or a saying that they really resonate with. So Dr. Len, what would be your quote or saying?
I think of what is you are what you eat, and you are what you think. I mean, just you got me on the top of my head, but I mean, that's what people don't realize. That if you keep thinking some of the negative thoughts throughout the day, which is common, and we talk about that on the app and everything. But yeah, you have control. And you'll see this if you're a parent. You'll see your kid when they're 1 or 2 years of age. They start putting those fears of negativity. Oh, they're fearful to jump into the swimming pool. Oh, it's safe, but they build up these walls in their mind. It's fearful for them, and that just continues. And so, you are what you eat. You are what you think. You get to decide as an adult, what do you want to feed your body? What do you want to feed your mind?
And those are two powerful things that makes up a person, your thoughts and what you actually put in your tummy. So on that note, thank you so much, Dr. Len, for being on My First Step Ever, for sharing everything that we wanted to understand from you with such an open heart, and letting us get a bit of a glimpse of you, your life, and how things came about. I am wishing you all the very best moving forward from here, and in every endeavor that you have planned, or it may come into your mind very soon. So all the very best for everything. Thank you once again.
Thank
To
you,
all,
Ashani. Thank you very
yes,
much.
Dr. Len. And to all my listeners out there, I like to say that start believing in yourself and keep believing in yourself. Build that conviction and take the action. See you until next time. Please do give ratings, and please do write your comments. And you can directly reach out to me on My First Step Ever _IN. That's my Instagram handle. A little about myself. I have always loved performing on stage, acting, speaking, and just emoting myself. So I use these mediums different ways so that I can connect with people, help them, empower them, infotain them, which is to inform them and entertain them. If you would like to collaborate for any opportunities, more than welcome to connect with me on my Instagram handle. Thank you.